That's cute.
Thank you. I have my moment. Oh, man, my arm. I can't lift the glass.
I think you did.
Left-handed.
It's PT, physical therapy.
It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelly and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelly and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelly and Phil on this Friday, Egads, December 15th. Egads, December 15th, episode 191. Shelly, happy Friday. It's wine time.
Happy Friday.
I feel like a magician. It's wine time. Yeah, okay. Anyway, we're not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to bring our guest up on stage here in our new little platform thing. We would like, do you want to introduce our guest? Do you want me to?
You have been talking to her. So
okay, fine. All the way from the other side of the mountains, we have from Rocky Pond Winery, we have Liz Keyser.
Hello,
Liz,
hello.
Welcome to Wine Time Fridays. Did we pronounce your last name correctly, Keyser?
Yep, Keyser.
Beautiful. We'll do that just to make it a little better. That's lovely. Okay. Liz, we talked a little bit, and I know it's okay for me to say this. Shelly and I were not familiar with Rocky Pond at all. We had some wines come. Again, it's a good thing. We've been talking about Wine Library, the Gary V Wine Club, Wine Text, Cellar Text, all this stuff. You're getting pretty good values. And on the 11/11 sale, look what came in our case of wine, but this Rocky Pond 2020 Strata Stone. I'm like, Rocky Pond. Well, that's odd. I looked, it's from Columbia Valley. Well, who knew? So did a little research, not much, reached out. Liz came back and the next day said, would love to be on as a guest. And bingo, bango, bongo, here we are.
Here she is.
So welcome. Yeah, I know. So grateful and appreciative of this. We have got 4 wines that we're going to be tasting through.
That's a lot of wine.
But we're gonna give it its due. But we're gonna open up this 2022 Strata Stone White. Liz, while I'm opening this, would you like to say a little bit about what this is? A Rhone varietal white, is that right?
Yeah. So kind of typical of most Washington wineries, we live both in the world of Bordeaux blends as well as Rhone blends. And the 2022 Strata Stone White, Strata Stone is always going to signify a Rhone blend. So if we're talking reds, GSM, for the whites, it's probably going to be a blend of Viognier, Roussanne, Marsanne. And this is one of the first wines that I actually made for Rocky Pond from start to finish. I joined the team in February of 2022. And as we're going through the vinification of this wine, it really came to me that instead of doing a pure Viognier or pure Roussanne or Marsanne in the 2022 vintage, those 3 wines just really played so beautifully together. And this wine is barrel fermented, aged on its lees. And then one of the things that I have kind of carried with me throughout my winemaking career from winery to winery is a tenet of really focusing on unfined and unfiltered wines. And so this is going to be one of the first white wines for Rocky Pond that skipped those 2 steps. I'm quite proud of this, actually. If you have it in front of you, the clarity is pretty exceptional.
It is.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Please forgive our semi-lame glasses. It is the holidays, and we like to have a little decoration. When we go to the Reds, we've got the one wine glass that we're going to pour. But this is our holiday glass. Cool. Yeah.
No, I love it. Those are beautiful. And wine bill too.
You did ring. Yeah. Okay. No, it does. It did. So we should toast this up. To this month, we are toasting, instead of the whole kit and caboodle, we're doing what?
Peace on earth.
Peace on earth. And so I've got a little
Oh my gosh,
piece.
you're so weird.
You're weird. Thank you.
I feel like we're on like the Rose Parade back. Like they have all these decorations in front of them.
Did you taste your wine?
I did.
Mm.
Delicious.
You know, we're not big fans of the term porch pounder because it really, it just doesn't give it enough value, I guess. This would be so easy to drink.
It would.
So easy to drink.
It's very peachy.
It is really good. Did you?
This has a little Semillon in it also.
Just a dollop of Semillon. So the 2022 vintage was really compressed for us. Everything really took a long time to get fully ripe. And then when it was all ready to pick, we had to bring everything in almost under the gun with 3 weeks of time. And so we did some creative co-fermentations and ended up co-pressing the Marsanne with a little bit of overage of Semillon. And so that's how Semillon snuck in there.
Ah,
Interesting.
Okay. It's really, really good.
Yeah, so we got a 60% Viognier, 22% Roussanne, 15 Semillon, and then 3% Marsanne.
Yep.
The Marsanne got co-fermented, cold pressed.
Yeah, co-pressed. So everything goes whole cluster into the press. And I actually remember that day we were gearing up for our third press load of the day. And we had maybe half a ton of Semillon and 2.5 tons of Marsanne left to go. And instead of firing up the press for 4 rounds, I was like, come on, we got to just combo these. And, you know, they're both one of those varietals that just have that really round and rich, supple texture. It was a really fun combo for me.
You said
you don't
round.
really see those two play together.
Yeah, you said round, and boy, that's spot on. It is so just soft edges. It's got some depth, doesn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. I love really texturally rich wines. And the 2022 vintage was a perfect foil for that, with these wines barrel fermenting, but also retaining enough acidity that the palates are really electric too. I mean, there's a good amount of acid here that picks things back up. You get the stone fruit, a little bit of that kind of nutty, honeyed edge from the barrel fermentation process. But yeah, porch pounder it is.
It has a long finish also.
Time out.
Thank you.
Time out. The dog's not doing what she should.
Where are you? Come on. Jump up there.
What type of dog do you guys have?
Miniature Schnauzer.
Oh, so
And
cute.
she wants to scratch on things.
Liz, meet Lucy. Lucy.
Hi, Lucy. What a cutie pie.
Okay, now lie down and behave yourself, okay? Good girl. Lie down.
We have a 7-month Australian Shepherd, and she's also a chewer. So I'm surprised she hasn't barked yet. But
Your daughter has an Australian Shepherd, right?
Kia? Kia's an Australian Shepherd, yeah.
Yeah. Does yours have blue eyes?
ours doesn't. She has these really beautiful green olive eyes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's nice. So she'll be a winery dog, maybe?
Oh, for sure. She comes to work with me every day. It's the only way you can get out all the energy. It's got to let her run in the vineyards.
They're super smart too.
Yeah.
Just so smart. I was going to say, we should maybe do the 7 Cellars Wine Word of the Week, only because I want to make sure that we talk about this.
Okay.
Diurnal shift. I'm pretty sure I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a super quick little thing. The shift is the difference between the daytime highs and the nighttime lows.
We talked a lot about that in Paso Robles.
Yeah, because there is that big gap.
Mm-hmm.
But I want Liz to talk a little bit more about that, because that is super important where you guys are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The diurnal shift patterns that we experience during the growing season are kind of what makes it or breaks it for us. As grapes continue to ripen, and especially under hot conditions, they're respirating a lot of those acids. And when we start to think about the structural components of wine, one of the things that's essential to the palate is acidity and life and brightness to it. And so we want those cool nights to come in and help arrest the respiration of acid and retain that for us. And particularly where we are in kind of the Northern Columbia Valley, our diurnal shifts are a little bit less dramatic, but they work in our favor because we have such a short growing season compared to, let's say, Napa or El Paso. We really want those evening temperatures to drop down for the air temperature, and then we allow the ground temperatures to really help us continue to ripen gradually throughout the evening. So gotta love the diurnal shift.
Yeah. And your vineyard is gorgeous. I saw it on the website, overlooking the river. It is so beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, we're at a part of the Columbia River that sits just kind of in the foothills of the Cascade region in central eastern Washington. And as you go further south towards the Tri-Cities or even down near Walla Walla, the Columbia River is really, really wide. But where we are, it's a tighter band that creates this really great basin that we're able to grow grapes in. And the Columbia River in our backyard also helps moderate our temperatures and plays into the terroir and overall climate for our vineyard sites as well.
And I heard they have dinners in the vineyard. That would be really great there.
Yeah, well, I hope now that we are friends, you guys come and visit us sometime this summer. Yeah. It's actually an unveiling this upcoming summer will be the first vintage that we are doing Dine in the Vine series. So at our flagship Double D vineyard, we undertook a massive construction project that brought in Milestone Event Center, which is where we were able to host concerts and weddings. But there's an intimate dining area that's actually sitting right in the middle of our Sauvignon Blanc parcel. And yeah, our world-class chef, Chef Doug Setnicker, is going to be leading culinary efforts for us and doing just beautiful pairings. Like everything in Washington, it's very casual, but intimate and very refined. So yeah, I would love to have you guys come out.
Twist our arm.
Yeah.
We have 4 wines to go through, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Okay. And when we come back, we're going to switch from white to red. I already clapped. So welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Liz Keyser with Rocky Pond Winery. I really have to think about saying this because for whatever reason, when we were in Paso, Turtle Rock just keeps, because it's Turtle Rock and Rocky Pond. And so I'm just not that smart to be able to think about this correctly. So from a white Stratastone to a red Stratastone, we are going to open this 2021. Now, Shelley, this is the culprit that got us thinking about Rocky Pond.
It is. It's what we have in our cellar.
We have 2020 that came from where? Wine Library. And Wine Text and all of that.
So I noticed you have a lot of rock names.
Yes.
In the winery.
Very.
Yeah. Yeah, so where we are in the Columbia River actually is a brand new AVA for Washington State. It's the Rocky Reach AVA. And you might be able to see in my background, we are sitting in the area of the Columbia Valley where we have these beautiful plateaus on each side. And instead of having a basement layer of basalt rock, we have a basement layer of quartz silica. And on top of that is this really cool outcropping of unsorted river cobble that ranges in size anywhere from small pebbles all the way up to like granite boulders that are the size of a Jetta. And that's really what defines our soil profile is that basement layer of quartz silica followed by that unsorted river cobble. And the very, very final piece on top of it is this aeolian sand layer. And it just creates this really limiting growing environment for the vines, puts the right type of struggle on them. And when David and Michelle Duvenhorst, our ownership, bought this stretch of land in the now Rocky Reach AVA, that was the first thing that came to mind, is this beautiful stretch of rocky vineyard. And it didn't take much longer before they landed on the name Rocky Pond.
Nice.
And I have some fun fact notes. There's the stones found at the Double D Vineyard that were used to line the 1.2 million gallon irrigation pond at its heart, at the heart. Easy for me to say, not really.
That's a lot of water.
Well, it's a lot of water and it's a lot of rock. Do you guys take that water from the river?
We are. We are able to pump from the Columbia River, and we are Sustainable WA certified too. So part of the metrics of our Sustainable WA program is actually paying attention to water consumption and having water reclamation. So in our vineyards, we cycle through water after it's pumped up from the Columbia River. We're pretty water thrifty and use the irrigation pond to reclaim water as well as irrigate.
I mean, let's be honest. It's going to evaporate. It's going to come back down. It's going to come back down, whether it's snow, into the Cascades and then drain right back into the Columbia. It's kind of this nice cycle, right? So hashtag cheersing.
Cheersing.
You have this one? Nice.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is quite a bit different than the 2020 that we had. The 2020 was driven by Grenache, about 46%, 27% Syrah. This one flip-flops. It is 62% Syrah and 24 Grenache, and then the rest Mourvedre. So yeah. So with both the Stratastone and then the next wine that we try, 11 Dams, those are going to be representative of kind of a snapshot of what the vintage has given us. And so we blend them basically almost in proportion to the bounty of the harvest. And so in 2020, we had this really beautiful bumper crop of Grenache. And in 2021, Syrah was really strong and ended up being kind of the baseline for the Stratastone Red. For me, I love the texture and the structure of this wine. It definitely reads more Syrah dominant, but then you also get those really beautiful floral and pretty strawberry notes from the Grenache and a little bit of that kind of peppery spice from Mourvedre.
True.
Washington is growing so many great Syrahs, right? The Syrah grape is growing so well in Washington. And it's shining on this thing for sure.
Somebody who was rating this wine said it has meat on the palate. And I'm so glad they said that, because I always, when I'm tasting red wines, I'm like, this tastes like roast beef for some reason.
Yeah. Definitely Syrah can play into those more sanguine characters. You get that kind of like beefy olive tapenade thing going on, a little bit of bacon fat from the barrel program. I love having our Rhone programs age in puncheon format. So you really give a lot of fruit purity and you get the structural elements that you want from that oak aging without that like heavy-handed oak impression.
Right.
So a lot of neutral puncheon used in the Stratastone. I think we're about 30% new French oak here.
Nice. So Liz, you've been freaking all over the place. You've been held winemaking positions in like Napa and Oregon and Finger Lakes, McLaren Vale, Shelley. McLaren Vale. I happen to have already tasted some of your wine from when you were down at Hall. So some of the wines that I tasted in June 2016 with Lindsay and Brian, shout out to those guys. They're in Argentina or Peru or whatever now. The 2014 T-Bar Ranch, the 2013 Walt Gaps Crown Pinot, the 2012 Napa Valley Cab Sauv, 2011 Darwin Syrah, and 2012, Shelley, it's called the Core Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wow.
That sounds like heart.
Like C-O-E-U-R?
C-O-E-U-R.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Coeur d'Alene.
Like Coeur d'Alene. Core Cabernet Sauvignon. I had to put that in there. But so you tell us semi-quickly about your time at Hall. Were you making any of those wines? A, and number two, the rest of the Elizabeth Keyser story while we sip on this lovely Stratastone.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start at the beginning. I got into wine fresh out of college. I had a marketing and communications degree and was trying to figure out what in the heck I wanted to do with it. But I was really fortunate that I have parents who are wine collectors and had already kind of planted the seeds of wine appreciation and started working for a wine retailer. And from there, my intellectual curiosity was just awoken and put myself quickly on a path of realizing I didn't want to work in the world of wine retail, and worked my first harvest all the way back in 2011. And from there was like, wow, if I really want to climb the ranks in winemaking, I should probably go study this. And so found myself in the Finger Lakes for my enology degree, worked for Herman G. Weimer. And then at the time, and I think it's still pretty prevalent too, you want to do as many apprenticeships or internships as possible. And so that led me on this path of really wanting to explore as many wine growing regions as possible. So I worked for A to Z in the Willamette Valley, and then found myself at Hardy's Tintara in Australia just about as I was turning 30. And from there was like, I should probably get a full-time job. So I interviewed at Hall in Napa and immediately fell in love with the team there. And that's when I would actually meet my now really good friend and mentor in the wine industry, Steve Levesque. So I was hired on board as the research enologist, and from there rose the ranks in winemaking to assistant winemaker, and was looking for more creativity and ownership of the process by the time that I was ending my career with Hall. And at that point, Steve Levesque had signed on with Rocky Pond as the consulting winemaker. And so as I was in his ear saying, I think I'm ready to start looking, and wasn't necessarily tied to Napa or Sonoma, he was like, sit tight. There's something really cool happening in Washington. Flew up, met the team here. So John Ware, who's the former president of Colcita Creek, as well as the Doofenhorst, who are the ownership of Rocky Pond. And very quickly, my partner and now fiance, Matt, and I just kind of looked at each other and said, I think we're moving to Washington. And it's been incredible. I mean, it has a lot of the bits and pieces that I missed from each of the wine growing regions that I've worked and lived in. There's this really strong and beautiful sense of community here, as well as this creative drive to push us forward and kind of get out from under the shadow of Napa. So yeah, it's been really fulfilling being here.
Finger Lakes is not a huge wine region, right?
No, I mean, it's definitely ballooned since I was there. Riesling and Cab Franc were kind of the only two varietals that people talked about in a very serious way. There was still a ton of native and hybrid varietals being produced there. And it's actually been very cool watching some of my classmates rise the ranks and, create wine brands in the Finger Lakes that are focused on not necessarily Riesling and Cab Franc. So
yeah, that's nice.
So of the first two wines that we've had, the Stratastone White, about $45. And the Stratastone Red is about $48 at the winery. How many, and this is a question that sometimes wineries are not, thank you, honey, not, dump buckets right here. The wineries are not excited to share, but can you share with us how many cases of wine you're producing now a year at Rocky Pond?
Yeah, we're at about a sweet spot of 6,000 cases. It's hit or miss, maybe plus 200, sub 200, but we basically take the heart of our vineyard sites and bring those in for 6,000 cases. And then we also have some fabulous grower partners who also purchase grapes from our Clos Cheval vineyard. And
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a target to start taking that next step up in terms of production? Are you kind of happy with that sweet spot of 6,000 cases, give or take?
Yeah. So I think we're in a pretty comfortable spot right now, but Rocky Pond was first planted in 2013 and has continued to grow since then. And so we will in the coming years have roughly 20 to 30 acres of vines coming into maturity and bearing fruit. And so at that time, we'll probably start to scale up a little bit more based on kind of where the brand portfolio is. So 6,000 is totally manageable, and we're really happy with that. It's a comfort place.
And it all started with 1 acre.
One acre.
Yeah.
Actually, we should talk about that out of the next break, because we're going to move on to the next wine. But I do want to hear the story of how Rocky Pond came to be, because it's kind of a cool story, when we come back. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelly and Phil, episode 191, mid-December, with our new great friend, Liz Keyser from Rocky Pond Winery, Columbia Valley. The AVA is what again, Liz?
It's the Rocky Reach AVA.
So how long has that AVA been in existence?
Well, it's brand spanking new. It was minted by the TTB in June of 2022. So we're about a little over a year old at this point in time.
That's fantastic. How many AVAs are there in Washington now?
I believe, well, I know that we are the 20th, and there have been a handful of submissions for additionals, but I'm not sure if they've been approved yet. So I think we are still the newest.
You have these sub AVAs among the bigger AVAs. It was at 14 for the longest time. Now it's who knows, but it's actually a good thing, because then an AVA is more committed to stay in their lane of that AVA, right? A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for those who aren't familiar with Washington State AVAs, the Columbia Valley is massive. It stretches almost all the way down to the Oregon border and then almost up to the Canadian border. So from south to north, it's this huge swath of land. And one of the best things about viticulture is the vines really respond to the subtle differences in those soil profiles. And so as there's more of us who are growing grapes a little bit further north, a little bit farther out of the more established AVA regions, there's, stands to see probably more AVAs being carved out. It gives us, a little bit more identity, and also for the consumer too, starts to help you build a profile or an idea of what that wine will probably taste like. Every winery and winemaker is going to have their own flair, but it gives you an idea.
So we have just opened the 2021 Dam, 11 Dams.
11 Dams.
I meant to say Dam before I mentioned that, but the 11 Dams Red Blend, also $48 at the winery. The nose on this, exquisite. That's what I wanted to say damn about.
Probably because you like Malbecs lately.
That's what's in there? Oh, yeah. You know what? I did. This summer, I fell in love with Washington Malbec. From Red Mountain, we had a ton of Red Mountain Malbecs, really, this year. Stop licking the bottle, Luce. It's not yours. Jeez. You're a monster. Cheersing.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think for me, Malbec was one of those surprises moving to Washington. In Napa and other parts of the world where it's grown, I just don't know if I've ever given it that fair of a shake. But here it's its own animal. It's beautiful. It's a little bit more structured than that kind of classic punchy fruit character that you get at, your kind of grocery store level Malbec. And for me, it was such a surprise coming into the, Rocky Pond portfolio and having that really juicy, supple texture from the Malbec, but still beautiful structure. And, similar to our Stratastone Red, the Levendams is always going to be kind of our signifier of a Bordeaux blend of sorts, and will be kind of a snapshot of the vintage itself too. So normally you might see a little bit of Merlot, definitely some more Cabernet Sauvignon in the Levendams blend. But in 2021, we actually had very, very low yields of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon as well. And Malbec was just this big bumper crop for us. So it ends up being the majority of this blend. But I almost like that it's that really playful, punchy character on the nose, really juicy character on the palate. Yeah.
When you were tasting through this blend, creating this blend, because it's 51% Malbec, were you tempted to go a little bit more on the Malbec since you had a plethora of the fruit?
Yeah, so I maxed out every single last drop of Malbec that we had in this blend. So when we, the blending process is always really exciting. You think that you're going to go into it having one idea of what blends are going to be. And then as you start to layer on components, they don't always work out the way that you have them mapped out to. And so I had started off actually calling out the Malbec as an individual wine. And then when it came time to blend for the 11 Dams, it was like, I really need some Malbec. And then when I started taking a little bit more and a little bit more, it just all went in.
That's the science of making wine, right?
We call it bucket chemistry.
Wine is science, it's chemistry, and it's a little bit of kitchen.
Yeah, that's right. Would you say kitchen sink?
Kitchen.
Yeah.
Just kitchen.
A touch of this and a touch of that.
I was going to ask, you've traveled, and your last place before Washington was, what many in California would consider the epicenter of the wine world here in the U.S. In Napa, yeah. So, what were your preconceptions of Washington wine? And B, what have you found since you've been here to be others' preconceptions? We have a friend that just does not like Washington Reds. They're not California. I love California. Shelley and I have this debate. I think she doesn't know what she's talking about.
No, she does. She can pick out a Washington Red easily.
But
I know Washington Reds are dirtier. To me, they're dirtier.
I love the dirt.
Yeah. I think, gosh, that's a kind of tricky conversation. But I think high level, I looked at Washington as being the wild, wild west. You didn't really understand what was being grown there because it honestly is this place where so many different varietals grow so well. And it was really challenging to kind of find an identity. I think it's something that the state still struggles with. And you can argue till you're blue in the face whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But for me, it was definitely intimidating stepping into this role and all of a sudden going from just Cab, Pinot, and maybe some Chardonnay and Zinfandel to, wow, I have 30 varietals that I can play around with. And all of them kind of need their own different distinct character. And so definitely was a little intimidated by just kind of how many different varietals we would be working with. And then I think that the other misconception is Washington's a cool climate. It's not.
No, it's not. Eastern Washington can get a little toasty.
Yeah. And so I think what people might interpret as a cool climate wine is just what I actually really love about it is there's a freshness, there's tension to these wines. It's, anymore in Napa, you have these really opulent and gorgeous round palettes, but they're very low energy wines. In Washington, they're vibrating at a higher level, so to speak. There's tension to them. There's so many different styles, and just the creativity of the winemakers here in Washington is unparalleled, in my opinion.
It's so interesting what you just said. That sentence, and I know where that sentence is going, is on the front end, because that encapsulates everything of your experience coming up, which I find fascinating. I think that Idaho wine might be where Washington wine was maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Maybe longer.
But somewhere around there where they're just adolescents now and coming into their own, really creating some great wines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fun up in the Pacific Northwest that we're producing all this great juice. How many SKUs, how many different wines are you producing at Rocky Pond?
Yeah. So when I first came to the brand, I think we were sitting at around 14. And I think in the 2021 vintage, we bottled, let me count, I believe 9. Mm. And we have a goal to actually kind of bring a little bit more focus and start tapering it even more. So I think the sweet spot for us would probably be anywhere from 6 to 8 wines. So we're not that far off. You know, we want to definitely be part of that Washington story where we're half Rhone, half Bordeaux, and the jury's still out on, you know, is it going to be Merlot or Malbec leading the charge on the Bordeaux side, or, you know, maybe Grenache instead of Syrah. I mean, I definitely love our Syrah, so.
That says a lot.
We haven't talked about the ownership yet, and the story on how this whole little project of Rocky Pond came into existence is pretty cool. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, for sure. So our owners are David and Michelle Duvenhorst, and their daughter, Danielle DeBow, is actually our operations manager. So we're a small family run and operated winery. And in 2013 was the first year that we put vines in the ground. But the love affair with wine actually started a couple years earlier than that, when the Duvenhorst family were taking cycling trips through Europe, and they were novice wine drinkers at that time. But when you're cycling through Burgundy and the Rhone and you're tasting these beautiful wines that are still,
is that?
And you're going into a cellar with, you know, probably, you know, grandpa who is 3rd or 4th generation, and that really touched on the heartstrings of David and Michelle, who were looking for a legacy project for their family. They come from a real estate background. And so David had already purchased land here on the Columbia River. And as they were kind of fleshing out this idea, they started off thinking, okay, we're going to have a couple barrels, family project, but David and Michelle don't think small. And they certainly don't move slow on things. And so pretty quickly, that original 1 acre, 2 barrels of wine concept grew to the first, I believe, 20 acres in 2013 going in. And it's actually really cool looking back at old pictures, because the family is actually out there planting, right? It's them clearing out the sagebrush, tilling the earth, and by earth I mean the rocks.
A little bit of knapweed out there as well, I'm sure.
Yeah. And during that process, actually, they engaged the help of soil scientist Dr. Kevin Pogue out of Whitman College. And the first line of questioning was, hey, is this even going to be viable vineyard land? And after they came through and dug a bunch of soil test pits, Kevin Pogue came back and said, not only is this excellent viticultural land, but you are in a completely unique bedrock layer that's completely different than Chelan, which is only 20 minutes to the north of us, and certainly different than the balance of the Columbia Valley AVA. And so that kind of birthed the petition process for our own AVA.
So you guys started that petition for the AVA, and then how many other producers and wineries and whatnot were on board with you guys?
Yeah, so it was the Duvenhorst family and the Pierre family. David had actually purchased the land from the Pierres, and they had a small hobby vineyard for themselves. And at that time, we were actually the only 2 people growing grapes on this stretch of river. I believe we are now up to 7 commercial vineyards or something like that, but we are actually still the only bonded winery in the AVA.
Oh, wow.
The other's just selling off to other wineries that want to have a little of this AVA to have as an option and an offering.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly because we started off as part of the Columbia Valley AVA, we had that relationship with local wineries selling fruit, and now being able to really kind of give a name to that Rocky Reach profile has really been cool to watch. And so we actually, in the 2021 vintage, this will be the first bottlings of wine that bear the Rocky Reach AVA designation. And a couple of the neighboring wineries in Chelan that also purchase fruit from us will be also labeling Rocky Reach AVA. So
that's fun.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. Shelley, we're on the front edge of this new AVA. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, during my break, I'm going to be finishing this little 11 dams. When we come back, we're going to get into the last wine, as well as talking a little bit why your wine club rocks. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil and Elizabeth from Rocky Pond, who's making me laugh, which is fantastic. We are sadly on our last bottle to try, but okay. There's still a little bit of wine left for this evening, tomorrow evening, and the next evening, and maybe the evening after that. We have just opened a reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. This is a 2021 estate cab. I said reserve. I was wrong. It's an estate cab.
Right?
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I hope that's yours.
It is now.
A little. Thank you.
Okay. There we are. One last toast. Hashtag cheersing.
Cheersing. Peace on earth.
Peace on earth. Right there. Peace. Oh, it's behind our Wine Time Fridays thing. How depressing. Is this 100%, Liz?
Mm-mm.
It is not. It's about 76% Cabernet, and the remaining parts are Merlot, a little bit Cab Franc, a little bit of Petit Verdot.
Again, is it right bank Bordeaux on this or left bank?
So this would be left bank Bordeaux, but yes, if a minimum 75% allows you to label as a varietal designate. So this is a Cabernet Sauvignon blend for us. And I think one of the things that I carried with me from my time at Hall is, there's a number of things, but really loving the art of the blend. And so as I was sitting down and blending these 2021 wines, put together a base blend that was 100% Cabernet Sauvignon and really was still looking for a little bit more generosity. And so started to look to its neighbors in the vineyard. So Merlot, as well as a little bit of Cab Franc and Petit Verdot. And so it definitely reads a little bit more of that kind of like classic Bordeaux blends.
Yeah.
I love the tension of the 2021 wines. They're definitely have really beautiful tannin backbone to them. I think that we were able to make a very juicy wine out of this. Oh. But the 2021 vintage was so classic. It gave you a lot of that kind of more austere cab profile. And so bringing in a little bit of Merlot and Cab Franc and Petit Verdot just kind of fleshed it out a little bit. Put meat on the bones, so to speak.
It coats the tongue really well. It is very juicy. Will you do me a favor, Liz?
Yeah.
You've used the word tension 2 or 3 times already today. I would love to have you do a little deeper dive into that word tension, what that means to you.
Yeah. So I guess I do use it a lot, huh? Tension for me is almost this like energy on the palate. There's wines that are very round and completely coating, and they might just have a little bit of a lower energy to them. they're seamless, they're gorgeous, and they're opulent. I like wines though that maybe have not angles to them, but maybe more of a spherical thing. There's a little bit more just energy on the palate. And so it's a combination of both tannin and acid, as well as, you know, you still have just all the yummy structural components that make up your wine. One of the things too, moving from California to Washington, is we're operating at a slightly lower maturity level for ripeness. And so our alcohols end up being a little bit lower. And when you look at the structural components of what kind of makes mouthfeel of a wine, alcohol is a huge component. And so when you start to have slightly lower alcohols, all of a sudden things like tannin and acid, they kind of peak out a little bit more. And I really, really like that.
Interesting. You should say the alcohols are a little lower in Washington, because we have found on the bottle, the alcohols are a little higher, a little hotter in Washington.
Some areas of Washington.
Yeah, where we're getting into the low 15%. Actually, we haven't talked anything about it. Do you know off the top of your head?
14.6.
Okay, well, there we go.
Yeah.
On this one.
I think Washington producers are a little bit more honest with their label alcohols.
Maybe true.
Yeah.
You can have a plus or minus what?
1%.
That's it?
And
well,
then, I mean, that's huge.
I guess it is. Yeah. Well, especially if you go 14. Oh, 1%. Yeah, no, not 0.1. That's right. Yeah, 1%. Yeah. I was thinking more like 2 or 3. 0.2 or 0.3%, but 1% is huge. I mean, that's the difference between a 15.3 and a 14.3.
Yeah.
You know, on this, so Washington law says 75%. You can call it varietal. California is 70. Is that right?
Nope, still 75%. So difference
at one point.
78.
Label rules like that are all controlled by the TTB. So that's universal for US wineries.
TTB sounds like something, if you have it, should go to the hospital.
Not TB.
I'm just saying. So I kind of teased a little bit about how your wine club rocks. It's actually called the Rocks Society. Tell us a little bit about that. Are you guys maxed out? Do you still have room?
Yeah, we absolutely still have room in our club. And yeah, our club is kind of the lifeline of the winery. And it's structured so you can do 12 bottles, 6 bottles, or 3 bottles twice a year. And as a perk or a benefit of joining this wine club, you get access to wines that you might not be able to find at Wine Library. So, you know, our Stratastone and our 11 Dams, those are out in the distribution market. But to gain access to wines like the Stratastone White, as well as the Cabernet Sauvignon or Estate Syrah, you have to be a wine club member to receive an allocation of those. And those also tend to be the wines that are most cherished. Not that we aren't proud of our Stratastone and our 11 Dams,
sure.
But when we're blending for our wine club, those are going to be the limited case offerings. And then there's also access to all the fun release parties that we do. At our Double D Vineyard, we just launched the Milestone Event Center. And so throughout the summer, we have concerts and we get bands in from Seattle and draw crowds of upwards of 200 people to come in and enjoy us and party with us. And so if you want access to, you know, first round of tickets on those events, as well as, you know, first access to some really limited release wines, you got to be part of the Rock Society.
And also Dine in the Vine.
Oh.
Yep. And Dine in the Vine. So
cool.
There's so many exclusive offers that are really just geared towards our wine club. And, you know, it's our way of saying thank you to the people who have been with us along the ride as we grow as a winery. We want to make sure that we're still taking care of them. And plus there's some wine discounts too.
Right. I mean, that kind of is the cherry on top in a sense. Yeah, we have, to be honest, I don't even know if you're distributed here in Idaho or not, but it really almost doesn't matter in a sense, because you can always go to the website and purchase. True. And so I have no problem with that at all. It would be nice to get your wine here in Idaho, but that's just almost a formality, because you can go to the website and get whatever you'd like, or better yet, join the wine club, the Rocks Society, if you will, and get some of these nice little perks. By the way, you're 2.5 hours away from here in Coeur d'Alene, so
Nice.
I mean, it's not very
Yeah.
far.
Short drive from Seattle as well. We have tasting rooms in Chelan, Woodinville, as well as Leavenworth. And so if this is compelling you to come try our wines, that's where you can find us, and definitely online as well.
Been trying to get Shelly to Leavenworth this Christmas holiday because it's so beautiful there. I don't know if we'll make it. It's a very busy month, but it's so beautiful. And the tasting rooms now in Leavenworth are just sprouting all over the place, which we love. Shelly, are you dancing in Leavenworth next year? Is that
Next year? Yes.
nice?
Supposedly.
The Blazing Divas in Leavenworth, and you can bet we'll be in the tasting rooms as well
Oh, cool.
after
In the
the
fall.
parade, not before.
In the fall.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
our tasting room in Leavenworth is actually inside the Icicle Village Resort, so at the north end of town.
Which is
And we do-
fantastic. That's where we stay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Well, we have friends and family discounts there as well, too. So if you're part of the Rock Society, you get a discounted stay there as well.
Love that.
Yeah.
Shelly, did you have something to say?
Coming up.
Coming up, how about some wines we enjoyed this week?
Okay. I'll have to put on my glasses for that.
Okay.
Some wines we enjoyed this week. Antinori Castello della Sala Bramito Chardonnay.
It's a long name.
You say all those words and then you get Chardonnay.
I
You're
know.
like, that doesn't make sense. Claude Argentine Reserve Malbec, Foolhardy Sauvignon Blanc, Heinrich Two of a Kind,
That was
Savaya Chardonnay.
that last one was pretty. The Two of a Kind.
Mhm.
That was something that you brought in, sustainable. Those folks, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Welland Old Hand Shiraz
That was so good.
and a Brick and Bow Cabernet Franc.
Welland Old Hands, I don't think was from McLaren Vale, but it's down under for sure.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's McLaren Vale, but it could have been. If that rings a bell when you were down there, Welland Old Hands.
I'm not familiar with it, but sounds like you had a busy week. That's a fun week.
Yeah, it's tough to be where we are. We do have some announcements, and we have some fun things in the future. We have National Champagne Day on New Year's Eve. We're going to actually, on the 29th, which is our last episode this year, we are going to taste through a champagne, and we're going to actually rate some of our wines that we featured this year. It's going to be a really big undertaking. And then we're going to talk about the 100-point scale. Liz, do you have an opinion about the 100-point scale?
I do.
You have an opinion that you'd like to share with us?
Yes.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think it's a fabulous tool for customers to be able to have some type of criteria for their purchasing. As a winemaker, I try not to think of points when we're making a blend. The goal is always to make the best blend, and if we get big score off of it, that's a cherry on top. But
Sure, it's not the end all be all, is it?
no.
So that's the 31st and our year in review. We're working with Sam Lang with Lola and 2 additional special guests, although there's been this little change on when we can record that. So we're going to have to figure that out. We have Joy and Kurt. French Fry and Champagne Day. That's January 10th. Joy and Kurt from Bottle Joy is going to be after that. John, we're going to be down there Speakeasy again. It's a great tradition. John Bookwalter with Jay Bookwalter will be on with us near the end of January. Don't forget, Bottle Joy tomorrow has their annual Drunk Santa Christmas party, 6 p.m. It's annual because they've only been in business for 14 months, and this is their second year of doing it. They're also going to have bubbles tasting from 3 to 6 on New Year's Eve. They're going to have a band and all that. Listen to these spots. They've been a sponsor on this episode. And remember, we have a Wine Time Fridays series page that lists all of our different series. And we have 5 different series that we're doing, like Women in Wine, which we've been blessed with today with Elizabeth Keyser a woman in wine, blazing down trails, knocking down bushes. No, vineyards. That's not even good either. Anyway, huge thanks to today's sponsors, the Social Web, CDA Gourmet, and Bottle Joy. And Liz, thank you so much for being a guest on Wine Time Fridays. We will be visiting you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a fabulous time talking about Rocky Pond with you guys, and I hope you really do come visit us. We would love to host you.
Fantastic. And with a little bit of knowledge, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Liz. Thank you to our sponsors, and we'll see you next week when it was the Friday before Christmas. Nice. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelly and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you, to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.